Hi everyone. Really nice to not meet you, but be here to do the Secret Gardens project with you today. So my name's Katie, and I'm an artist, and I work with a material called clay, which is actually something that you dig out of the ground. Some of you might have worked with that before, but today you're going to be working with plasticine, which is a nice brightly coloured modelling material, and also with some coloured paper. So I'm going to be showing you some different techniques for working with that. But the project we're doing today is a secret garden project, and it's inspired by this box, which is made by an artist called Catherine Reiki. And the amazing thing about this box is you can peep inside, and there's a whole world inside. So this is a picture of the inside of this box. So you peep through this hole, and the light's coming in the top, and then you can see this whole world. And then this is another box that has been made by someone when we did a similar project before. So you can peep in the hole. I'm going to have a look in the hole. And then that's what I can see inside this world. So I'll just show you. So we've got the cardboard box, and we've got a lid. We've got the hole cut in the lid. And then this is the world inside. So you look through that hole, but that's everything that's happening inside that box. So that's what we're going to be making today, the things that live inside that box. And we're thinking about secret gardens. So there's an exhibition at the Garden Museum at the moment that is all about a book called The Secret Garden by someone called Frances Hodgson Burnett. And some children discover this secret garden. So these are some different pictures from different books about this garden. So you can have a look at these and think about things you might want to make to go in your secret garden in the box. So we've got some flowers and some animals. There's a robin and a fox. So you think about what you would like to put inside your secret garden box. And then I was thinking about secret gardens in London. So this is a map of London, and you can see Evelina Children's Hospital in the middle at the top, and then just in the very middle is the Garden Museum, where I've come from. And if we look at the next slide, see all those green spaces and all the trees. So we're looking down at London, and you can see the Thames, the big river, and all these sorts of hidden green spaces. So you might know somewhere where there's some plants growing that no one else knows about. So if we have a look at the next slide, this is one of those hidden gardens. So this is Lambeth Palace Garden, which is just down the road. And lots of people don't know about this garden, but it's really, really big. And then this is thinking about hidden gardens. So these are just growing up from cracks outside of the Garden Museum. So thinking about where things grow, where maybe they weren't invited to grow. And then here's some more pictures. So again, thinking about different trees. These are some poppies that you might want to make. This is one of my favourite gardens near where I live. So I like going back, and it changes every time I go, there's a new plant growing. We'll just flick through and look at some of these. There's a bee. You might make some insects to live in your secret garden. And lots of different types of flower. You can see it's really busy and overgrown. And there's some yellow poppies. More plants. And then these are some more boxes that people have made before. So you're going to have your box, and then you can decorate the outside and the inside with paints. We're not going to use the paints today. We're just going to be making the things inside, but you can think how you might want to decorate it. So peeping through the holes and seeing what's inside. And here's some more, looking down into the box. Okay, so you're all going to start with an empty box that has a little hole cut in the front. So when you're making, you might want to check and peep into your box and have a look at how it's looking inside. So I've got my empty box, and then you'll also have a lid that will fit on the top, and we've cut a hole in the top of the lid, and that is to let some light in to shine into the garden. So you're going to make your lid later as well, but for now we're just going to make the objects that go inside. And so we can have a little look at one that I made this morning. So if we look inside, got loads of lovely bright colours, and we've got things that are made out of tissue paper and pipe cleaners. So we've got a little pond, we've got a rose, we've got a windy plant, and we've got some paper grasses, and then this is a very silly squirrel that I made. So you might make some animals to go in. And it's all really nice and bright. So some of you will be working with plasticine, which is what these things are made out of, and some of you will be working with paper, and some of you will be working with both of those things. So if we start making, the first thing I'm going to show you how to make is a little flower. So I've got these two little flowers, and I've just pushed them through a little bit of paper to stand them up. There we go. So in your packs, you should have some different coloured paper and some tissue paper. So I'm going to get a few different colours. And we're going to start off by just ripping a little piece of tissue paper like that. So when you rip tissue paper, generally it will rip really nicely one way, and then it might not rip so nicely the other way. So if it's not ripping so nicely, try doing it the other way. And I'm going to rip that again. So you can see how big that is in my hand. Your hands might be a little bit smaller, so you might make your bit a bit bigger. And then I'm just going to hold the edges and scrunch it all up. And then twist the end like this to make a little flower. So that's the beginning of my flower, and I'm sort of pulling at the edges to make it all fluffy. And then you could take another colour. So I've got some orange, now I'm going to use some pink. I'm going to rip another strip and wrap it around. So I'm pinching the tissue paper at the end. So it's wrapped all round, and then I can twist the end, and that will hold it all together. So that's a nice little flower. And you'll have some pipe cleaners. So these are sort of fuzzy wires that you can use as the stems for your flowers. So you can hold one end over your flower and just twist it round. And you might need someone to help you twist it round. So it's twisted there. And the nice thing about these pipe cleaners is you can cut them with a pair of scissors. So you could cut it or ask someone to help you cut it. And then we've got a little flower. And I've made a little stand to put my flowers in. So to do that, I cut a strip of paper. So it could be a little strip, a small bit like that, or it could be a more sort of wobbly shape. I'm cutting a wobbly shape. And then I'm just going to fold the edges. And then you can So if it's a bit wobbly like that, you could fold it again. So this is another bit you might need a little bit of help with. So it's folded twice. So if I open it up and I'll draw on the fold. So we've got one fold there and one fold there and one fold there and one fold there. So that one folds like that, and then that one like that. So we have a little stand that the plants could stand on, and then you can just push the pipe cleaner through, so you make a little garden. And that can then, when you're ready to start putting things in your box, that can sit inside your box. And you could put a little bit of Pritt stick, a bit of glue on those two edges. Now, if you're ready to start putting things in your box, you could get a piece of paper to go in the bottom. I've got a pale blue piece of paper, and it's just a little bit too big for my box. I'm going to need to cut it a bit. So if I turn my box over, you can see it's just a little bit too big. So if I put that down, and I've put my box right to the very edge so I can see how much too big it is, and I'm going to draw around my box. And cut out around those edges. So that should just fit inside. I've smoothed it all in. You could put a bit of Pritt stick on the back and glue that in, but that's going to create a nice coloured base. So you can do that, or you can wait and you can paint the inside of your box later. But I'm going to do that so that I can then glue my little flower bed inside. So I'll need a bit of glue on these two end bits. And then I'm going to press that in, so then I've got somewhere for my plants to go. If you're just working with paper, if you've got some plasticine, so I've got a bit of green plasticine, I could break a small bit off and I could squidge that on, and that could be a little flower bed, and I could poke my flowers in there as well. So the plasticine is really nice for squidging things in if you've got some of that to use. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to make a tree out of paper. So here's one I started making before, so I'll put my tree there. And to make that, I'm going to have a brown trunk, but you don't have to have a brown trunk. It could be any colour. You could be making a rainbow garden. So I'm going to rip a piece of brown paper or card so that I've got a kind of rectangle or a square. You could cut it as well, but ripping it is fine. And then to make my tree stand up, so these are the roots of my tree, I'm just going to rip some lines in the bottom of my paper. So I'm just tearing along the bottom so that I have these frilly bits on my square. And then I'm going to put a line of glue along one side. And the other end, so not the gluey end, the other end, I'm going to start rolling this up, and this is going to be my tree trunk. So I'm just going to press that bit that's glued, and then you can spread these bits out so they are the roots of the tree. So mine's coming unstuck a little bit, which doesn't really matter too much. We could keep it as quite a wide tree, and if you wanted to, you could rip these into little kind of triangles to make it look a bit more rooty. So I'm just gonna, where it's coming unstuck, I might just put a bit more glue on. Roll that up again, and then I've put my finger inside and then press. And then I need some leaves for my tree. So for the leaves, I'm going to use some green tissue paper, and I'm going to rip off some pieces and scrunch it up. And I'm going to do the same I did with my flowers. I'm just going to twist the bottom to hold it together, and I'm going to start tucking that into the top of my tree. So rip off a square, scrunch it up and tuck it in. So I'm thinking about a nice big bushy tree. So scrumpling, twisting, and then tucking it in. And then you might want to make some branches for your tree. So I've got this leftover bit of brown card, and I'm going to rip it again into a kind of strip. And then I'm going to twist it. So I've sort of folded it, and I'm pinching it together with my fingers to make it long and thin, and then I can start twisting it. That's going to be a branch. And I could get another little bit of green tissue paper and scrunch that up. And just put that on the end of the glue stick, so I get a little bit of glue. And then tucking it inside so I have a little leaf on my branch. And then I can tuck that branch in with all the bits of leaf. So if I turn that round, you can see the branch poking out. So I've got another strip. So I'm just folding it. And twisting. And then I can tuck that. So I'm just pushing the tissue paper that's inside out of the way and tucking the branch in. So that's a nice tree, and I've got my tree I made before, so that's starting to be like a forest, which is exciting. So I'm just going to show you one last thing to do with the paper, and then I'll show you some things you can do with the plasticine. So I'm going to make some more flowers. I could rip 2 small squares. These could be the same colour, they could be a different colour, and put them inside each other like that. That's quite difficult to see. Let's get an orange one. So I've got 3 layers now, 2 pink and an orange, but pale pink's very pale. And then I've pinched it at the end, so it already looks a bit like a flower. Pinch it a bit more, and then twist it. And just put my fingers in and fluff those out. And then I can use the, keep forgetting what these are called, pipe cleaner. So put the flower on top of the pipe cleaner and I'm going to twist it round so it's looped round. And you can bend the pipe cleaners because they've got wire in, so they're nice and easy to bend. So I've got one flower on there, and I'm going to make another one. So with my 2 pieces of pink tissue paper, and then another colour inside. I'm going to pinch it at the bottom, give it a little twist to hold it together, and then twist the pipe cleaner round. So can you see how this is making a kind of vine? So I could make some leafy bits as well with some green. So you can play with the tissue paper, you can twist it, and fold it, and then just twist your pipe cleaner around. So when that goes in the box, that could be kind of climbing up the wall of the box. You could poke a little hole in your box so that it can, so you might get an adult to help you with a pair of scissors. You can just poke it through and then it can climb up the wall of the box. You could just get some bits and scrunch them up and then glue them into the box so they could be little bushes. Or you could decorate the sides by getting bits of tissue paper and putting some Pritt stick on and sticking them all over the sides of the box to make it feel like there's plants and trees growing inside. So if we get rid of my bits of tissue paper, and I can show you some things that you can make from the plasticine. So the first thing I'm going to make is some rocks to go in my garden. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of grey, and I'm going to smush them all together. So I'm squeezing and smushing the plasticine, and I could roll it in my hand. I've got a lovely little rock, so I could also break that in half and make 2 little rocks. So they could go along a path. You could rip some paper to be your path. So they could sit like that. Or you've got some coloured pencils, so you could also draw. So you could draw a path in there. And then the rocks could go alongside it. Or you could draw a little pond, or you could rip out a blue bit of tissue paper. So ripped out a little blue circle. That could be a pond. So I'm going to stick that down, move that out of the way, put a bit of glue on the back. This is my box again. Stick my piece of tissue paper down. And then I could make a little duck to live in the pond. So I've got some yellow plasticine. And whenever I'm modelling anything from plasticine or clay, I normally start with either a sausage or a circle. So I'm going to start with a circle. So I've got the plasticine in the palm of my hand and I'm rolling it into a circle shape. So that's going to be my duck's body. And then I'm just sort of squishing it with my fingers, and I'm going to squash a flat bit for its tail. And I'm going to take another small little bit, put that on its side. I'm going to roll it in my hand, so making a little ball. And I'm going to squash it to make a little beak. And then I can stick that on, and I've got a little duck. And you can use the pencils in your kit to just poke some eyes. And you could make some little wings, so you could poke another little hole with your pencil and get a bit of tissue paper and scrunch it up. Poke it in. So you've got a little wing for your duck, and then do one for the other side. I'm making this very tiny, but you don't have to make it so small. And then the duck can live in the pond. And you could make some more stones, you could put them around the pond. So you can also make some leaves from the plasticine. So if I get a green bit, and I'm going to roll it in the palm of my hand and squash it between my fingers like this. Squash. And then squash it in my thumb like this. Put it back into my hand and press it with my thumb. And then I can draw the line on it. That's a little leaf. So I could pinch it, stick it down. Make another little leaf. And rolling it into a ball. Pinching it. And then squashing it. Draw the line. I've got two little leaves. Could use another pipe cleaner so I can cut it with the scissors. Poke it in. And then I could make the top bit, make a little flower for the top bit with some plasticine. So I can roll on the table. I'm rolling the plasticine out into a sausage. I don't quite need that much, so I'm going to break it in half. So that's about half of my finger. And then I'm going to squash it flat with my finger. Peel it off the table and then roll it up. That looks like a little rose, so then you can just pinch the bottom and stick it onto your pipe cleaner, so you've got a little wobbly flower. You could also make what else have we got in here? You could make a tree. So this is quite a nice one. So I've got some different colours of green plasticine, and I'm squidging them with my fingers. And this is meant to be like a bushy tree. And then you can use your pencil, so you can draw little lines all over it with your pencil to look like leaves. So that one I've drawn little lines over. This one I'm going to get another bit of green. I'm going to squidge it into a kind of squashy tree shape. I'm going to make little holes with my pencil. And then I can squash them together. So that's, doesn't look so much like a tree now, but that's going to be the beginning of my tree. And then for the trunk, I'm going to take a bit of brown. I've got a bit of brown plasticine. I'm going to roll it on the table to make a trunk. I squash that down, and then I can stick my green bits on top. And I've got a little tree. I've got a giant rose and a tiny little tree. And you could think about some insects that live in your garden. So I could make a snail. I'm going to make a yellow snail. Actually, I'm going to make a stripy snail. So I've got a little bit of yellow and a little bit of pink. I'm going to squash them together, and then in my hand I'm going to roll them together like that. I'm going to roll them on the table with my fingers and twist them a little bit. Okay, twist and then roll. I've got this lovely stripy bit of plasticine, and then I'm going to start rolling from that end. So rolling it up to make my snail shell. If I leave a long bit at the end like that, and then I can squash it to make a little head. And you could even make two little, so I'm just rolling a tiny little bit now, two tiny little bits. And that's going to be its antennae. I've got a happy little snail that can live next to my rose. We could make a bee. So with a little bit of brown and a little bit of yellow. And we could roll them together and twist it up and then roll it into a ball. So I've got my little bee body, and then make some wings. So I'm going to make the wings in white. So I've taken a small bit of white and rolling it into a ball, squashing it on my hand, and then I can stick it on the side. So the bee could live on the flower, or you could put it on another bit of pipe cleaner so that it bounces around everywhere like bees do when they're buzzing around flowers. So you could stick a bit of pipe cleaner in there. It wobbles around. I could stick that in next to my flower. You could make some grass. So you could rip a bit of paper, and then I'm just going to, with the scissors, cut I'm just cutting a straight line, lots of cuts. I don't want to go all the way through, so I'm saving this bit at the end. And then you can press it with your fingers to make it all grassy, and you can either roll it up, pull out all the little bits so you've got like a little tuft of grass, and that can stick in a bit of plasticine. Or you can fold this edge and then put some glue along here. Just move these out of my way. And so here's my box. And if I wanted to stick the grass on, then that edge that I've glued, I can press it down into the box. So when you're putting things in your box, you might want to check through the peephole that it looks good. I'm just looking through the hole in my box to check that everything's in a good place. And you could start then arranging things in your box. So thinking about where you might want to put a tree. So you could put a bit of glue on the bottom of the tree. Or you might want to wait so that you can paint the inside of the box and stick things in later. Where my snail is going to live. I think he's going to be going along the path. So you can start arranging things. And if you start this off, you might come back to it later and do a bit later. So if you get someone to take a photograph down into the box so that we know where everything lives and where it's going to go. Oh, and yeah, you've got the lid. It can go on. And then you can peer in and look at the little world that you've made. Bye.